The objective today is to differentiate between the variety of selectors used in CSS. So it's a straightforward lesson, something that will be very helpful in the design process. We will do some rinse and repeat exercises here. This will really help with your coding, and remember the code katas we do. This is very similar to that. We will learn the code and we'll apply it to like 6 different websites. All websites that you've created before. What we haven't started is we have not learned to do the main.css file extension yet. That's going to be tomorrow or day 4. In progress, we're just learning about different styling options you have for your website. And what's completed, we've completely learned the connection between HTML and CSS. So this is a not so quick review right here. Yesterday we learned how to do inline and embedded stylings. Let's go back to all of our websites now and add an inline styling. I will let you choose which one you'd like. Here are the 6 websites we've done so far. So it says paste the link to 4 of your websites reflecting these changes. So choose any 4 of the 6. You can do all 6 if you'd like. So this is the code we're about to use to go to your websites and insert. It says all we are doing is adding tons of color. So I'll show you, I'll even show you how to create a pull request, and you can suggest color changes to your friends in class, especially if you're like me and you're pretty color illiterate. I do not know what colors go together very well. That my wife takes care of. So if that's your case, you guys can definitely collaborate and work together on this. So our first option, again from yesterday, you can either put your CSS inside of the body or you can put the CSS inside of the head. And if you choose to put it in the head, you just need to make sure it connects to the right paragraph tag inside of your HTML. That's why I sort of prefer this one, because it's going to just stick together. You know that these words right here, this is an example, will be white with a gray background. Here, you're a little more separated from the CSS's effect. But truth be told, a professional web developer will have their CSS even more separated than this one right here. Okay, so I'm on my profile page on GitHub. I'm going to click here, repositories. You can see I have 19 of them. Let's start with the digital age one first. Here I have not even created a index.html file, so I can do that for you real quick just as a refresher. First step is to click branch, gh-pages, click the blue, then click branches right here, change default branch, master down to gh-pages, update, understand. Now click back to your repository. Let's create file. Index.html. So by now you should have memorized this little skeleton we do. And this digital age website, if you remember, the question was, what made the achievements of the digital age possible? Okay, and I'm going to change the color again, just like I did before. This time let's go with blue and the background gray. And that should do it. So I scroll down, commit new file, click settings to get your link, and then I'll copy this link, and this is one of 4. Sometimes you have to wait for the GitHub servers to update. There we go, so it worked just fine. Now I go right back to my repositories, choose another one, Sisyphus, and just rinse and repeat. Just paste some color into your index.html code. Maybe this one I'll do. Let me change the color again. Go down and save. Go to settings to get your link. Sometimes you have to wait for GitHub to update their servers, so it's still going to take some time depending on how far the server is away. And it doesn't have to look terrific, it just has to have color. So let's go ahead and do that to 2 more of your websites, please. Now moving on to the meat of the lesson, today we're learning about selectors. So in CSS, selectors are patterns used to select the elements you want to style. And you can go to this link right here to use the CSS selector tester to demonstrate different selectors. It's a really cool link, so definitely check it out. So what I mean by selector is in HTML, you can name a division something like intro, and then every time you want to style just that type of paragraph, you can go in there and do that. That way your paragraphs in other areas, like right here, will be unaffected by you changing a color or a border or something in that thing right here called intro. And one way to do that is to just type in .intro, and then here you go. You can change the background color of that paragraph in intro to yellow, and it will only affect that particular paragraph. Right now, we haven't done the main.css file creation, so you're just typing in style inside the head tag, and this is where you'll label, and this is where you'll go ahead and type this CSS code. CSS is composed of style rules that the browser interprets and then applies to the corresponding elements in your document. A style rule has three parts: the selector, property, and value. Think, write, share which is which in this example. So which one is the selector, which one is the property, and which one is the value? And the CSS declaration always ends with a semicolon, and declaration groups are surrounded by curly braces. So let's answer this think, write, share. What does an ID selector do? You're going to learn two different selectors today. ID selectors allow you to style an HTML element that has an ID attribute regardless of their position in the document tree. So here's an example of an ID selector. Div ID equals intro. This makes me think of Whiplash from Iron Man, and an episode of Phineas and Ferb, by the way. He is the perfect representation of an ID selector. Regardless of position, he can style something from afar. In the CSS you use, the hashtag or # is used to connect to an ID. So you'll have ID selectors and class selectors. Class selectors work in a similar way. The major difference is that IDs can only be applied once per page. So classes, they can be used as many times as you need on the particular page. So think, write, share, what's the difference between ID and class selectors? And now, just to mess with your mind, you can have descendant selectors. This is not one that we're going to study very much, but I still want to mention it just so you know. Descendant selectors are used to select elements that are descendants of another element. When selecting levels, you can select as many levels deep as you need to. Think, write, share on this one. What is a selector? And so I'm asking this think, write, share not based on what I just talked to you about, but just the general concept. Again, what did I say at the beginning of the lesson that a selector is? Almost done here. If you are feeling rebellious and want to use descendant selectors, just explain them to me within your code, please. How would you do that? How would you go about coding something and then talking to the person who reads the code, not necessarily the person who looks at the website? Well, you can do that through comments. Comments are a very popular thing for programmers. Comments are used to explain your code and may help you when you edit the source code later. So you might forget why you typed something. If you add a comment there, it can remind yourself of what you're planning to do or doing. Anything you type in terms of comments are ignored by browsers. So when I'm looking at your web page, I won't see your comments. But if I'm looking at your code on GitHub, I can easily see them. How do you do them? Well, you just do this \*, then type whatever you need to, and then finish it by doing a *\. So let's practice like we usually do with stuff. I want you to go to one of your websites on GitHub and add a comment inside of your index.html and then paste the link here. Definitely not a hard thing to do. I'll go ahead and demonstrate. And for my example here, I'm actually going to use another student's work, and I'm going to just add comments inside of their repository and then do a pull request, and hopefully they'll accept it and then they'll be able to see it from their screen. So if I go to line 10 here, right under their H1 tag, I can do a \* and say something like, this is a great idea. And then *\, and that should do it. When I go down here to save, propose file change, the student will now have to accept this and merge the pull request. And if you go down here, you can just see in the green bar, this is the only suggested change I'm making. So all you have to do is do that to just one of your accounts, and your GitHub should already be up on another tab because we did the review in the beginning. So technically you have 4 links to GitHub at the beginning of this lesson, and then you have 1 more link at the end. Alright, so to talk about this picture real quick, I just found a great local business doing what you're learning about. So 720 Media, they look very professional. Go ahead and check the website out, maybe even ask for an estimate just to see how much you can get paid for doing these things that I'm teaching you in class. That's the end of the lesson, so choose an IB question to reflect on. And here we are at the DOL. Use the following snippet of code to identify examples of each selector. So I'm asking you to do a 1, 2, 3 for a DOL, and then only type what the selector is. Not the property, not the value, only what the selector is.